Welcome to the Rialto Marketing Podcast. Today's episode is a revenue acceleration series interview where we talk to seven-figure B2B professional service firm owners that are actively trying to grow their business and get to the next level. We talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly so that you can learn from their experience. And I just before we even went on air, I know that we're going to have a really good time with this conversation. So with that, we're going to jump into it. So again, I am Tim Fitzpatrick with Rialto Marketing, where we believe you must remove your revenue roadblocks if you want to accelerate revenue growth. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to tune in. I am really excited to have Justin Escar from Virtua Consulting with me today. Justin, welcome and thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Tim. I guess I'm the ugly of the good, the bad, and the ugly, huh?
Yeah. No.
Okay, good.
Before we dig into the meat of the conversation, I want to ask you a few rapid fire questions. You ready to rock?
Let's go.
Okay. Very quickly, what do you do and how long have you been doing it?
What do? I fix people's problems with technology is really the end all be all to it. We are an Apple consultancy that takes care of businesses who have Macs. We take care of residential people who have Macs. We fix hardware that is Mac. So we do everything there is with the Apple world. I have some like side gigs that go with it. We have a conference and other things. We'll talk about that later, but all of it revolves around that Apple world.
What's the most important lesson you've learned in running your business?
Listen to your wife.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's a really good question because I'm not sure. The fact is you're going to get a lot of advice from a lot of people. Most of it's bullshit. So weed out would be one of them. Like weed out the stuff. Trust your gut. Your gut usually is right.
Yeah.
And the other one that I would say is you have to have grit and determination to be an entrepreneur. People who are real entrepreneurs know that garbage you see on Instagram of people being like, I'm a baller. Like
Yeah.
that's not real, right? So you have to have grit and determination. And if you don't have that, try drugs. I don't know. Xanax.
Yeah. You definitely have to, I think you have to have thick skin and you have to be willing to push through roadblocks because we all hit them. And gosh, when you think that you've got it all figured out, you're about to drop down the hill again.
No, if you think you're on top, you are not.
No. None of us have it all figured out. It's a constant work in progress. So this kind of leads me into my next question, which is, we know that growing a business is tough. When you do hit those roadblocks, do you have any kind of mantra or motivational saying that you say to yourself, share with your team to help push through those times?
I don't think I have anything that I say to myself, but to my team, I do try to bring positivity and gratitude and abundance. It's that's the new thing with entrepreneurship is having the right mindset. It's like come on, let's go team. We can do this kind of thing, but like on a bigger, broader scale that actually means something. And it's not just fake. Right. I think for me, the mantra really would be, this is a shit time and we're going to get through this together. And I'm going to be here to support you to do whatever it takes to do that. Yeah. And if that means buying a team member lunch because they're busting through tickets that day, or giving someone a day off, or like jumping on something to help somebody else, or jump on a Zoom, or do 3 things at once, so be it. So I think my mantra would really just be like, support your team truthfully and honestly.
Yeah.
And not any of that fake, old 80s mantra, Don Draper kind of stuff that we all learn about.
Do you find yourself sometimes jumping back into doing things that you delegated a long time ago when the chips are down, or when you're just short-staffed, right?
Yeah, no, totally. So part of our business is we get tickets, which means we get clients who have emailed us. They need help with their computer. We will respond. I have an entire support team to do that for me, so I can be doing things like having a nice conversation with you.
Yeah.
But I took 4 tickets today just because either one, I'm faster, that's in my wheelhouse, something that maybe my staff members don't know, or 2, they're overwhelmed with the stuff that they have, and I need to jump in on it. Like, I think one of the things is we're a 10-person company. even at that size, the owner needs to be involved. Not micromanaging. I don't mean like being on top of things, but I mean like they need to jump in when they need to jump in,
Yeah.
right? Like we're not at that size yet where I never have to look at a ticket again. I
Yeah.
would love to be there, but at this point in our time frame, the way our staff is broken up and who's doing what, like I need to jump in, I'm going to jump in. And I say that to my team all the time. Also, going back to the mantra thing, which is, I just said to them, "Hey guys, I'm getting on an awesome podcast call. Before I go, who needs me to look at anything? Like, are you all good? Let me know if I need to look at anything. I have 15 minutes." And everyone's like, no, we're good. But then there was someone who hit me with a DM and was like, "Hey, can you just explain this thing to me?" Cool,
Yeah.
let's just do that. So getting into it is totally fine.
I the first business I was a partner in was a wholesale distribution company, and one of the things that I found was as we grew, and I continually pulled myself more out of the day-to-day elements. Whenever we were short-staffed, I always jumped in to help, and it was always eye-opening because the way it used to be is not always the way it is today.
Yeah.
And so as an owner, it brings additional visibility that you may not have. And when you don't have your boots on the ground day in, day out, there's a lot of things that you can miss. So I don't think it's a bad thing at all to take time to jump back into things and just go, huh, is this what it used to be? Or maybe not. Maybe we need to improve some of these processes here.
What's funny about this is that Tony Hsieh, the late owner of Zappos, when it first
Yes.
started, he did something similar to this, just kind of in a little different way. Anyone who started at the company, no matter what your role was, if you were coming in, you were going to be the new CFO, you had to do 3 months in the call center doing customer service calls before you went to your actual role. And that became the culture there because it allowed whoever was being hired to really understand the crux of what that business was, which was customer service. Right? They're not a shoe company; they're a customer service. You can call them and complain about your toaster, and they were going to try to fix it for you. Bought by Amazon, but like they would try to fix it for you, right? Like that was his thing. And so that ideal of I luckily got to see him as a keynote at the first South by Southwest Venture to Venture in Las Vegas back in like I want to say it was 2014.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Actually, really interesting story. This is an anecdote to that. I didn't even think I was going to bring this up, but when South by sent out postcards about the event, on the cover of the postcard was like Tony Hsieh, these two women who were like staples in the South by community, and me. And I was like, how did that happen?
Kudos to you.
Yeah, right. I guess I just looked good back then.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that model of everything you do is customer service focused. So you need to know what your staff is doing because you need to make sure that they're providing either the proper ways to talk to communicate to your customers, or they're getting bombarded by your customers, or whatever that interaction is. You're there because, like you said, the way it was a year ago is not what's happening today. A year ago, this time, we weren't as big as we were. We didn't have acquired the two companies we acquired last year, and we got 2 new staff members. So things have significantly changed in a year, especially for us. So how is it different today? So I jump in and I go, oh, why are these buttons in a different place? Or why is this looking like this? And I may even have questions for my staff that, like, you would think I would know all the answers, but you don't, right? No one ever does.
No.
And I go to them and go, hey, what's with this change here? Oh, this happened because of that. Okay, cool. Now I can put these two things together and get to the endpoint for me. And then I can show the staff like the results.
Yeah. So you touched on this a little bit. You have multiple companies.
Yeah.
But everything is centered around this, for lack of a better term, Apple at its core. You like that? You like that?
I should use that as my memoir book. I write that. Oh my God. This is why you're in marketing and I'm in tech.
There you go. So Apple at its core. Tell me how this kind of unfolded. Was it on purpose? Did it kind of just happen? Walk us through that.
So all right, I'm not going to give you the whole history because you can look me up and you'll hear the history anywhere. My dad bought a Mac or an Apple IIc when I was 5 years old, and then I was really always an entrepreneur, and I was always the Mac kid. And
Yeah.
I went to college and I did PCs, and then I realized Windows is garbage, so I got back into it. When I finally started virtual computers in 2008, I had already been in the Apple industry for a while. I was working for someone from 2004 through 2008, and I learned a lot about the Apple world and the ecosystem, what it meant to be an Apple consultant, which is a program at Apple, things like that. And so when I finally started my own thing, I became an Apple consultant. I worked for other consultants. I learned everything I could. I got like real deep, real technical, learned all this stuff. Then I started to get a little bit more in touch with my entrepreneurial side. So in 2010, 2011, when the first iPad came out, right? They let out the App Store. You can build apps, upload them to Apple, and then they would sell them for you.
Yeah.
So I was using my iPad in the bathroom, as you do, and I was drawing my name like a third grade girl, like putting hearts over the I and Justin, like that level of like drawing with like some paint program, right? I was living in Manhattan. I had a studio apartment, and at the time, I was giving paper work tickets to clients for them to sign and me take home. When you live in an apartment, and it's literally like this big, and I'm like bombarded with paper, and I put two and two together here, and I said, hey, if I could draw my name on this device, this thing, right? Because the iPad was brand new.
Yeah.
How can I have my clients sign their name on these paperwork tickets? And so my wife was working with some outsourcing stuff, so I learned about outsourcing, and I outsourced this design idea, and I created the first ever PDF signature app called Sign My Pad. It was wildly popular back then. This is pre-EchoSign, pre-DocuSign, pre all of those guys, right? That got me on the speaking circuit of Apple conferences and Mac conferences, talking about like the reverse of the 4-hour work week. So instead of doing like only 4 hours of work a week, if you do 4 more hours of work a week, you can make $90,000 outsourcing and building apps. This is the heyday of apps. Remember this. This is again, this is like the very, very beginning. Getting on that, I talked to a lot of other Apple consultants, ones that were outside of my geographic area. My office was in New York. I only knew the guys in New York. This got me to meet everyone else, and I learned so much about how they were running their businesses. I realized that so many of them didn't run the business the same way. A lot of them were just winging it. And so that got me to start my conference called ACES Conference. So here I am now with Virtual Computers, our software company, which was originally called Autrieve, and now I'm starting ACES Conference. All of these things are Apple-centric, right? So I just climbed this ladder.
Yeah.
Then ACES, we're going into our 9th year. We shut Autrieve down because it didn't cost. It was cost prohibitive to keep making the apps the way we were making them. And then we started, because of ACES, we started getting interest from people who were Apple consultants for us to engage in merging with them or acquiring their businesses, which was like a whole new thing for us. So in 2020, we actually acquired a company based in Des Moines, Iowa. That was the first one. In 2022, we acquired another business that's based in Colorado that was a training company, right? They do B2C training. They teach people how to like use Zoom correctly. So that was like a whole new avenue for us. And then later in 2022, we acquired an Apple consultant who was also an Apple authorized service provider, meaning they can fix hardware. And I was like, oh, that's yet another avenue for us. So while I've always been like a Mac dude, right? I've always been like laid back, let's not worry about security kind of guy.
Yeah.
Like all of these things fell into place. So much like your Apple at a core thing, which by the way, genius. I always look at it as a hub and spoke, right? The hub being Apple and all these spokes being like consulting, training, hardware repair, conferences. We now we do software again for IT consultants. So like that's an offshoot. The conference, I have a mastermind program, offshoot of that. I've always wanted to do ACES at Sea because there's something about the letters jumbling and making sense. Not that anyone's ever getting on a cruise ship ever again, thanks to the pandemic.
Yeah.
But all of these different things that spawn off of it. And they're all related to one another. They all come back to like now, granted, I have a lot of things that are not related, right? I wrote a children's book with my wife, unrelated to Apple.
Yeah.
I have the funny t-shirt store that every entrepreneur has. It has nothing to do with Apple. But at the crux of our company, it's business to business IT consulting, business to consumer IT consulting and training, business to business to consumer hardware repair, business to business coaching and training. We actually do one-on-one coaching with other IT consultants, specifically Apple consultants, because that's the world I'm in. So all of these things kind of play into one another. My involvement with the program at Apple called the Apple Consultants Network is moving up. Like there's all these things that just play into one another. And it all just came down to like, I really liked their product. I thought the Mac, when I first got it I got my first Mac in 1992. I was enamored. This is an amazing thing.
Yeah.
True story. I'm Jewish. I got my bar mitzvah. I took my bar mitzvah money. I went to CompUSA, and with the cash that I had, I think I paid like $600 for a 1X CD-ROM, not writer, ROM drive, SCSI, because it came with 2 speakers and like 10 CDs. And so I could hook that up to my Mac. I was like, this thing was amazing. We don't even use CDs anymore.
Yeah.
Like it was just one of those things. Like I was always so into technology.
Yeah.
I always thought technology would move us forward, right? Not that it hasn't, but like, and I'm getting off tangent here, but like there's so much technology out there that just holds us back. Like, I'm not really big on social media anymore and everything that's going on over there, like all of that stuff. I don't want to even get into it, but like technology should be moving us forward, and no matter whose it is, right? Apple's or whoever's. I just think that Apple, and especially during the Steve Jobs era, really changed the game for so much, and it was awesome to like kind of be a part of it, So yeah,
there's Justin, you just dropped a ton of valuable information here. So I want to pull out.
Podcast over. We're done.
I want to pull out a few things here because you touched on multiple areas of growth and revenue acceleration. Because I think a lot of us kind of fall into this one track place when it comes to growth.
Yeah.
And it's really not that way. So I want to pull out some of the multiple ways you talked about. One, you've acquired companies. Acquisition certainly is one way to accelerate growth. Second is niching, right? And specializing. You specialize in Apple computers. Somebody has a PC, they're not working with Justin.
Nope.
Okay. That doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with it, but that's not where you play.
Does.
Yeah.
I'll convert them. Send them over here. I'll put a Mac in front of their face.
Yeah. So niching and specializing. Another way.
Yeah.
Third that you touched on is just being open to additional opportunities that are related to what you're already doing.
Yeah.
Like you see this a lot in in private equity where they buy distinct but complementary companies and then they leverage the hell out of the audiences for each of those companies to go into others, right? And so you're growing and accelerating growth in multiple ways, and I want to make sure people didn't miss that.
Let's talk about that last part for a second, though. Real quick. I was asked one time, like, how did you find the opportunity? Like, how'd you find the opportunities to acquire these businesses? Listen to what I had just said, where I ramped up these things. I met the people who I acquired by hosting a conference for them. They look at me and they go, this guy knows. I mean, if you ask them, they're not going to say this, but this is in my mind. I'm a little egotistical like this. They look at me and go, this guy knows what he's doing. I want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
Right. Or like he understands all the pieces that I don't understand, whether that's human resources, finance, marketing, whatever. He can grow a business. And so I always say, don't say no to an opportunity. But a lot of those times, they're not going to just hit you in the face. Like you have to find the ways to make those opportunities, as weird as that sounds, by doing all of these things, right? Like all of this started because I made an app because I use an iPad in the bathroom. Like I then I tried to make a second app and we blew it, and I dropped $80,000 on an app that never came out. But I told a story about it, and I turned that into a book, and that book turned into a speaking thing, and that speaking thing turned into me meeting people, and me meeting people turned into a conference, which then met more people than I acquired. Like it's not one thing and done. Like how there was 9 steps. Take a chance.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Well, and if you want to acquire Apple consultants, well, you need to get in front of Apple consultants. So
Yeah.
where the hell are they? Well, they're at a conference. I'm going to start a conference, right? I mean, that's certainly one way to do it. But, when you have a very clear understanding of who your target market is or who your ideal clients are within that market, it becomes much easier to start to create that list of where the heck they are, so that you're fishing where the fish are, not just like casting a line out in the middle of the ocean. So I love that. So let's talk a little bit about marketing. I mean, we kind of got to talk about marketing on a revenue acceleration podcast. One of the things you said was your chief complaint about marketing was that you have to do it.
Yeah. If it was only so easy.
Which I love. Tell me more about like that. Tell me more about that. Like, what's the source of that? Where's that coming from?
So, look, I'm business first, technology second. I always have been, which is what separates me from a lot of my friends who are in the industry, right? I understand marketing. I understand management. I understand human resources, finance, whatever. I'm just not great at marketing. For me, marketing is such the lowest part of my business plan, just because I've never been good enough at it to stay with it. Now, the part of this happens to be that my wife is an excellent marketer. She actually runs marketing for a Fortune 500. So anything I do pales in comparison to her, right?
Yeah.
And I've leveraged as much as I can from her, like, all of our logos and most of our design and stuff like that comes from her. So when we talk about marketing in general, it's like, okay, well, you need a social media calendar. You need a plan of action. You need to know who your leads are. You need to be able to write an email drip campaign. You need to be able to create YouTube videos. That's a lot. It's a lot for any one person to do.
Yeah.
And I go to a lot of these, everyone pitches me their services, right? Every MSP marketing company pitches me their service, and they're like, we'll do it all for you for $15,000 a month. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to spend that much money. Put proof, put your mouth where your money is, something like that. Like, show me, get me a client first. Well, we can't do that. Well, of course not, because your stuff isn't necessarily believable. Or better yet, the amount of people who hit me up on LinkedIn who were like, I'll get you 45 sales a week. And I was like, have you ever worked with an Apple consultant before? And they're like, nope. And I'm like, then no, right?
Yeah.
So it's a tough thing, because I personally do not believe, and you and I have not worked together, and I mean, zero offense.
No, I don't take it.
I personally believe there is not anyone out there who can do marketing well for an IT company, specifically Apple, but an IT company. And here's why. When would you call for an IT guy?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is when I have a problem.
Exactly. So, like, if I spent months and months marketing to you, you're not going to look at it at all. Like, it might be something deep in the recesses of your brains, but like, you're not going to care until the day your thing breaks. And so the key is to be in front of you the day that breaks. Well, guess what? I'm not good enough at being that rigid with my schedule to do that. So I feel like I can't actually do marketing well. Maybe I'm wrong, right? I've been told by my business coach I need to stop talking so negatively about myself, and I told her that I'm not letting up on this one. But like, it's that consistency thing. Unless you and as a business owner, you need the time to do that. I'm a business owner of multiple businesses with staff. I have 2 little kids at home. I have an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old. I make dinner for my family. I want that family time. I don't want to be working all weekend trying to do YouTube videos. I have to come up with content, film the video, edit the video, get it out there, put it on YouTube, make sure it's working right, then repost it on LinkedIn, make sure the algorithm hits it right so I can't actually just repost the link. Like, all of this stuff, on top of which I have to remember how to fix your computer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
It's just so much. So for me, I don't want to do, like, it's too much. I just don't want to do it.
You don't want to do it.
Yeah.
I want to pull more out of this because again, you dropped
Go
a
for it.
ton of
Rip me
good
apart
stuff here. Because look, the reality is a lot of business owners feel the exact same way you are. They're like, oh my God, oh my gosh, he's speaking my language. So there's a couple of things that I think are super important. One, so many people are battling information overload when it comes to marketing. There is so many different marketing channels,
Yeah.
and our immediate default is kind of like, I have to be in all of these places. And the reality is most businesses do not, right?
Right.
You need to be very few places. You need to be in the right places for you to see success. So you don't have to be everywhere. You got to choose what's right for you. And by the way, what's right for you, Justin, may be totally different than somebody else, right? There is no one size fits all marketing plan. And you're starting from a different place. You want to achieve different things, right? Those require different plans. But we don't have to have a podcast and be on YouTube and LinkedIn and create content and all these things because it's just overwhelming, right?
Right.
So I think that's one thing that's important to keep in mind is you don't have to be everywhere, and it doesn't have, when you eliminate that need of feeling like you have to be everywhere, all of a sudden it doesn't become quite so overwhelming. The second thing you touched on about, hey, when do I need IT? Well, when I have a freaking problem, right? And depends on who you talk to, or I don't even know where the statistic is, but I always default back to anywhere between 5 to 10% of your market is ready to buy at any given point in time. So knowing that that's the case, the way I look at marketing is the job of marketing is just stay in front of and top of mind, so that when the problem becomes so painful enough that they're looking to change, like they may be totally happy with their current IT provider until the wheels come off and they're like, dude, these people totally screwed up. I need another IT person. And at that point, we want them to think of virtual computers, right? Or virtual consulting, whatever the appropriate company you own may be. But if we're not top of mind, like I was in real estate for a while, and in real estate, in residential real estate, same in commercial, they say, dude, if you're not in the top 2 people they think of, you're never going to get the business.
Right.
And I think that's appropriate to any business. Like when the problem becomes so great, if they don't think of you in those top 2, that's it. The only way you get in the top 2 is just by being consistent, just by being there.
And there it is. It's the consistency that
Yes.
for a business owner is really hard to do, right?
It is.
And everything you say is on point, right? And I 100% agree with you, right? If you're a small business, if you're a small to medium business, you have your single thing going on, you should know who your avatar or persona is.
Yeah.
You should know where to be hitting them. You should know exactly where they exist in the world, whether that's on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, whatever, right? And you can go after them there. Totally makes sense. The consistency is the hardest part for any small business owner. I'm sure you know this.
Yeah.
And that I think is a big thing for me. So I've been trying to be more consistent with like exercise, for example.
Yeah.
Right? I'm now working through that, got that unlocked. Now we're going on to the next thing. So like literally on my to-do list, it has every day, did you read? Like, because I need to be able to read. Right? Like the next one after that is, did you market? Like it's one of those things where can you keep that consistency? I think for smaller companies, for entrepreneurs who are looking to really grow, put the time in, right? And it's not that I do a little bit of marketing, right? We do have our YouTube channel, we do have our LinkedIn posts and whatever it is. And because I have so much stuff, I'm doing times 3 because I have virtual gravity and my mentor.
Yeah.
But and they're 3 distinct audiences nonetheless. But the fact is that you, the listener, can hone in on focus on one thing, and you can totally do it. You can crush me because I'm not doing it. You can do better than me. And so you can go and get, but have that consistency, have it on your to-do list every Monday, Wednesday, Friday to post to insert where you're going to post here, and do it every day for 6 months. And the problem, and this is what I hear back from people also, right? Because I do talk to a lot of consultants. They all say the same thing. Well, I don't know what to post. Like, go on a rumor for tech people, like go on a rumor website and just repost that, or like whatever, post a graphic. We're recording this, I think, a month before it's gonna come out, right? I'm gonna say that we're recording this February 28th. March 1st is National Bad Customer Service Day or something, or Stop Bad Customer Service Day is what it's called, right? I don't know. It's one of those holidays. I looked it up. Whatever. Cool. It's already scheduled to go out for one of our LinkedIn pages. Stop getting bad service. Come use us. Like, I'm putting it on all of our channels because I don't know where our people are yet. But like, you can preempt with that kind of stuff. It's like I went to Canva. I created a LinkedIn graphic. I wrote some words and done.
Yeah.
Content doesn't have to be full form, 3-hour long podcast, audio, whatever. The way some of the big entrepreneurs that we all listen to say it should be.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Justin, it just goes back to outlining what your priorities are, not biting off too much. If you bite off more than you can chew, then you're going to get overwhelmed.
Right.
If you focus and hone in on those priorities, it becomes much less overwhelming. And like you touched on, one of the biggest roadblocks with content is, what am I going to post? But the reality is, once people get in the habit of creating content, the ideas are not the problem. The ideas are plentiful. They're out there. Jesus, in the tech space, in IT, like, go on to some Reddit forums to see what the hell what questions people are asking, and answer the damn questions. I mean, it's everywhere.
I have a great idea for this. I don't know. You know who James Altucher is?
Yes.
Yeah. So a long time ago, he wrote a book. I don't remember which one it was, but in the book, he talks about exercising your idea muscle by literally every day coming up with, pick a topic and come up with 10 new ideas for that topic. Yeah. Right. You'll see that you could get through 1 through 4 or 5 pretty easily. 6, 7, 8, tough. 9 and 10, really hard. But if you do that all the time, even if you're just reusing 1 through 4, like, that's your idea creation. Like, it's really not that hard to come up with stuff. No. So yeah,
there's a ton of stuff. Well, and like in the IT space, again, you guys have people that are calling up with support tickets. Every single one of those support tickets could be a video or a quick post. I mean, there's so much stuff. So you have multiple companies. What would you say are, some of your, let's just say, your 3 biggest strengths as opposed to weaknesses? And I'm not going to hold you. I'm not going to go, Justin, you only gave me 2. What comes to mind here, man?
What are my 3 biggest strengths? Oh, this is something. Okay. One of them is the ability to see things that a lot of people don't see. So for anyone who knows the entrepreneurial operating system, EOS, it's been fictionalized in that book Traction, right?
Yep.
There's the role of the visionary, right? I fit that role really, really well. I'm really good at coming up with ideas, getting them started. I'm not great at finishing them. Right. And that's okay. I know where my place in life is.
Yeah.
But I would say my strength is being able to look at a scenario and figuring out what to make it work better, right? I'm also really good at fixing things, like that same scenario situation where I can go, oh, this is what's wrong with that. You need to fix it. I might not fix it, but I can figure out what's broken. And then the last strength, I would say, my third strength would be my ability to do stuff like this. It's not always easy to be able to be a good guest on a podcast. I've luckily been able to do that for a while now. I chalk that up to 1, being a motor mouth, and 2, taking comedy lessons and sucking at it. I was horrible at stand-up, dude. It's so bad.
I don't know if I could do it.
But my ability to talk to people, understand things, and at least sound like I know what I'm talking about, because I'll tell you a story about this in a second. Looks good. All right. So true story. I was doing this. I was on a PR circuit. I got on MSNBC CNBC. And I was down on the stock floor and I was being interviewed. And someone had asked me some question I did not know the answer to at all. They asked some financial question. And I kind of just was like, my answer was like, I own my house, and like just kind of shrugged it off. And they went to the next person and asked them. And later, a friend of mine who's a financial analyst is like, that's not what they asked you at all. I was like, they don't, whatever. I look good doing it. Who cares?
Yeah.
So that ability. So I think, which has lent me the ability to talk to customers as well, right? If I extrapolate this one out a little bit, I have the ability to talk to a customer. I have a customer who's mad. I can talk that customer off a ledge. I can help them through their problem. I can figure out what's going on, right? Client calls me, oh, my data's missing. I can't find my stuff. Where's this thing? All right, let's take, and I can recognize who it is, what their personality is like, how do I manage, and how do I balance their personality, right? Because different customers, different personalities. So I would say like that ability to talk, listen and talk has been actually probably one of my greatest strengths. Might be a little bit of a weakness. But yeah, I would say those are my three.
Okay, cool.
I never thought about that before. And now that I'm done talking about those three, I'm questioning whether or not those three really
No. Well, dude, I think because one of the first things that came to mind when I asked that question, was how you led with just your ability to see things that other people don't. In that, again, it goes back to the first question we talked about with Apple. Like, you were open to seeing these other opportunities to branch out, and a lot of people wouldn't think about that. So I definitely think that's a big strength. What do you think has been the biggest driver or had the biggest impact on the growth of your companies?
My innate desire to have a lot of money. Like, people, this is I hate this because my business coach tells me differently, tells me I shouldn't do this. My wife tells me I shouldn't do this. My wife's family says I should do this. Like, I'm literally driven by money. Like, I know it sounds petty and like people shouldn't talk like that, but like, let's all be honest here, folks. Like, the reason you're in business is one of two things. You either want a lifestyle business, one that can sustain your life and put food on your table and give you the ability to go like snowboarding on the weekend or whatever you guys do in Colorado. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or you want to get filthy rich, or at least partially the way there, right? Yeah. I honestly believe that every entrepreneur, and I'm going to ask you this question, should have a large, hairy, audacious goal. I forget which book that comes from.
Big, hairy, audacious goal.
So before I say mine, Tim, what's your big, hairy, audacious goal?
Oh man. I would tell you at this point in my life, my big, hairy, audacious goal actually is changing. I don't, the first business I was in, I wanted to grow it as big as possible. Yeah. And we sold it and then I got out of it. My goal at this point is to just have a positive, lasting impact on the people that I come in contact with. So that's not really a BHAG as much as it is more of a mission, or what drives me.
Yeah, but it's still valid, right? Because like, you want to positively impact every person, right? Because you never want to leave a situation. Mine is a little bit more petty. I want a jet with my logo on it. Like, I was thinking about this the other day. Like, there's no reason why my job should exist. And like, I can't say that in 10 or 20 years that like my job's even going to be necessary with everything like AI and stuff coming out. And so the question is like, what kind of legacy am I going to leave? But if I had a plane with my jet with my logo on it, like, yeah, that's going to be a legacy. So, but like, but it doesn't matter what drives the person, right? Like, I have a list of, and here's my list right here. I'm going to read it right from my whiteboard. I can shoot my outline, right? Number 1, Gulfstream 280. Number 2, 2-week vacation, only one of which I require to not be doing work anymore. Number 2, stop taking this weekly call, tickets, and problems. Start doing more closing deal networking and acquisitions. And number 4, save $100,000 in cold hard cash. Like, these are obtainable, right? Yes. And those are the driving things to get there. Does that mean that's where I'm going to stop? No, because I'm going to keep going beyond that.
Yeah.
But like, that's where I am in my life. Maybe I should stop watching Succession. I don't know. But like, that's where it's at. Everyone's BHAG, LHAG, whatever is going to be different. And it's okay. What drives you is okay. Like Gary Vaynerchuk's whole thing about being driven by like, he wants everyone to know who he is and he wants to leave a lasting legacy of kindness and cuteness and fuzzy bunnies. Cool. That works for him. But like, that's not Elon Musk's,
Right.
driving factor. That's not Bezos's driving factor. That's not Branson's. Look at all of these big wig entrepreneurs that we all look up to or listen to or hear from all the time now. And they're all so different, right? So it doesn't matter, I think, that what you think of my driving factor. Like if you guys think, oh my God, I can't believe this guy wants a plane. Like whatever drives you, if your driving factor is, I want to stay home on the weekends and do nothing, cool.
Yeah.
Do that. Work for that. Work towards that. Hustle your ass off Monday to Friday so you can do that. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But I get told a lot, stop saying that money is my driving factor, but like, I know my place in life. It's cool.
Yeah. Well, Justin, like you said, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, what you want is what you want. Yeah. And I don't think that you need to justify that or anybody else needs to justify that to anybody.
Yeah.
So
Michelle,
there we go.
What Tim says about you.
So I want to ask you one more question before we close it out, which is, knowing what you know now, is there anything you would do differently?
All of it.
Yeah.
Honestly, all of it. It's a
tough question.
Like, well, because here's the thing, right? Like, would I honestly do anything differently to get to where I am? Probably not. Like, if I knew everything, if I knew everything I knew now, then I probably would have started certain things earlier. I probably wouldn't have made the mistakes I've made, but those mistakes I've made is what allowed me to like do the things that I've done. If I didn't drop 80 grand on this program, I would have never finished writing my business book, which would have never been the catalyst to get me on stage, to do the thing, to get the conference. Like none of that would have happened. Right. So I can't say there's anything I would do differently. I would, there's micro things I would do differently. Like I would use a different piece of software than we use for certain things, or I would have acted on something a day faster, or I probably would have left the company that I was working at and started my company earlier. But like, had I done that, and this is your story, like I started my company, my first client ever when I started my company was to fix the hard drive of this girl's computer. That girl's my wife now. So like,
dude,
had I started earlier, that wouldn't have happened. Right. Like, so it's hard to say I would do anything differently. I think it's just the micro things that wouldn't have changed the overall, but I still would have been here right now on this podcast with you, Tim, like talking about these things in the end, Yeah.
So did you bill your wife for the work that was done, or did you?
I billed her boss. Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah.
$150 bill to fix the hard drive.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, I'll have to say, I'll have to come back for part 2 in order for everyone to hear the story about how I traded her business cards for dinner, and I still have the best business cards in the industry.
Okay, there you go. I love it, man. We never know where our path is going to take us, so
exactly.
I love it. Where, Justin, where can people learn more about you, connect with you?
Yeah, so Virtual Consulting is the big company that has everything underneath. Virtual Computers is our B2B. Find me on LinkedIn. I'm the only Justin Escar. That's not true. I think there's some kid in Texas, but I'm the one you can find me. I'm the one with more stuff. LinkedIn.com/Justin Escar. You'll find me. But Virtual Computers is going to be probably the easiest way to get to me. If you need help with anything with your Macs, give me a call. And if you need anything help with your marketing, call Tim, because clearly I can't do it.
Well, thank you for that. And thank you for being here. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, and I know people will enjoy listening or watching it. So thank you, Justin. Please connect with them over at Virtual Consulting or Virtual Computers. We'll make sure those links are in the show notes. We've been talking about growth, revenue acceleration. If you want to know which of the 9 roadblocks are slowing down your growth, head on over to revenueroadblockscorecard.com. In less than 5 minutes, you'll be able to discover and assess which roadblocks are slowing down your growth. You can always connect with us over at rialtomarketing.com as well. Thanks for listening, watching. Till next time, take care.